Welcome to another episode of Toot Your Own Horn, Music Matters. I am here with Paul Mifsud. Welcome, Paul.
Yeah, good morning, Lisa.
So happy to have you and really excited for you to share your journey. How did it begin? Where did you start?
Um, yeah, it started with my father a very long time ago. He played the clarinet, and I was given a photo today of my father playing, and I'm like not even 2 years old, I think, in this picture. So I was always exposed to the woodwinds from a very young age, and took private lessons in a community that we lived in, and then played throughout high school. And then I went on to college and I practiced music, and then I played professionally ever since.
Wow.
Um,
So was it sort of a foregone conclusion when you started that music was something you would pursue, or was it just so much a part of your life because of your family?
yeah, I didn't know I was going to be a musician until I was in high school, because I had been playing already. I was getting a lot of attention from my peers who were just starting.
Oh.
And I think that it was that attention. I said, "Hey, I think this is pretty cool. I will do this." Yeah,
Because you
that's
started
probably
young,
what.
you started before the age for that school starts you, right? So that's
Yeah,
why you were way ahead.
everybody started about 12 or 13. I probably started four or 5 years before then. So I was
Wow.
quite advanced, right, relative to them, squeaking notes out of their clarinets, right?
Right. So in high school, the light went on because you felt way ahead and you felt like people were paying attention to you, so you felt you were good at something.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I wasn't good at much else, but I could play saxophone and clarinet, and that's exactly what happened. Yes.
Mhm. And when you say you weren't good at much else, is it because you weren't into school, or was it that it was hard for you, or what was that? Why was that determined that music was the thing that you were best at?
Now that's a really good question. If I don't, if I don't like the subject, I'm not working at it
Okay.
as a kid. So, English, math, physics, I could do it, but I just didn't put the time into it. However, practicing, I was very devoted. I played every day.
And what do you think, looking back on that, made it so fun for you?
Yeah, so various stages throughout my development. Well, like I said, the attention, but after the attention wanes off, I started identifying my woodwind heroes, such as Benny Goodman, Artie Shaw, John Coltrane, Michael Brecker, and yeah, and I would, the more I listened to, the more captivated I was, and the more I wanted to emulate and sound like them, and find my own. So I endeavored to do that, and still do to this day.
Did you have a dream of who you could become, or was it just that it was the sound that enamored you? Like, what was it that made you so committed to these heroes or to wanting to emulate them?
I just liked the um, the sound I got in playing in a band setting, and the camaraderie that it creates. And it's still in the hang. The people are great that I hang. I mean, that's the one thing about music is very few disagreements and arguments. It's all about getting the sound, and that's the beautiful thing. Whereas I also had a career in business, and it wasn't always so harmonious as it is in music. And that's probably what did it. If I'm answering your question properly.
Yeah. So, in high school, you fell in love with it. In college, did you actually major in music in college?
I did. I was fortunate again throughout because of my father's support. I was able. So I live in Toronto, Canada,
Hmm.
and I attended the Berklee School of Music in Boston, and so that's purely by the support of my parents. And so majored in a big way. Got to meet a lot of people. I went on the road with people I knew from school, and yeah, and I played ever since.
Hmm.
I also had a parallel career to that because I found that it was difficult to have 3 kids and a white picket fence on a musician's income at that time. What
Hmm.
were my goals and dreams back then? I always pictured myself as maybe being a horn section member of like Phil Collins. I mean, it never happened, but I go, that would be a pretty good gig. Had Could that have happened? Perhaps. But I already did the pivot to my secondary career.
Hmm. So did you become, so it sounds like you got married because you said white picket fence. So it makes me think you got married and maybe you were having children and it was like, this isn't working because it's not enough money, basically, is what it sounds like.
Well, it's money, and I didn't want to be away, right?
You didn't want to be
And
away from your family
right, yeah. So
because
so
basically the gigs were all away.
yeah, the away part mostly, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
how did you, when that happened, what did you, that had to been a tumultuous moment, like, oh dear, now what? So how did you make that decision to start a career? How did you wind up in business?
yeah, great question. Oh, these are good. Yeah, because it was very heart-wrenching,
I bet.
and I put a lot of thought into it. And I'll tell you a very quick story. I was on the road. We were in Calgary, Canada, and we were picking a friend up at an airport, and we're in this big equipment truck, a 5-ton truck, if you can imagine, probably 14, 15 feet high. And we're driving through the airport. Of course, we don't see the overhead pass sign, and we took the truck
Oh
into the
no.
bridge, and it smashed up,
Gosh.
and that was probably the moment I said, "Hey, man, I can't continue in this vein and be a responsible human being." So it was then that I started looking at options, and I was always interested in electronics, like the lights and the sound part of it. And they were offering these courses, all funded by the government of Canada at the time, for jobs. So there was one called electronics computer option, and that was the beginning of my IT career at that point. Now, having said that, I never stopped playing. I always had weekends. Like I'm a musician. I
Yeah.
was just supporting my life, right?
Right.
and my and being home.
Right. I totally get it. And so that started your career in IT and it filled in a gap. What do you think needs to change in our world or in the music world to help people not have to do that? Do you think there's any pathway that's possible?
That's a yeah. That requires a lot of thought. Like especially in the advent of music technology and AI. That's a really hard question to answer. Um,
But nothing
I,
replaces the human connection of live performance, lessons, human interaction. And to me, that's where
Nothing.
music always is going to win if we can be in front of people.
Yeah, but in terms of um, making a life of it solely,
Hmm.
that's a challenge. For starters, I think governments, the U.S., Canadian government, really need to pay attention to the arts.
Hmm.
It's what makes a community sing
Hmm.
and we get along. I think it would for starters. I think if we just totally focus education on math and sciences, we're missing out hugely on the potential, on the human potential, on exactly the points you mentioned.
I've thought about this a lot, and for me, I think it's comes down to that we need to impress government with the fact that the arts can produce jobs and can produce return on investment. And so for me, I've been really focused on how can we create more jobs because that will spark government's interest or spark workforce development's interest in trying to help our community because we're really off the radar. And I don't know what it's like in Canada. I'd be curious to hear this, but in the US, there's very few people that know how to fix instruments, and there are very few people that know how to like know enough product knowledge to actually feel safe buying them from them. And so to me, those are two really core jobs that really need to expand globally to allow people to participate and feel safe doing it.
It's totally true. I'll even add, you go to a music store today. When I was a kid going to music store, you could lay out mouthpieces, 10, 12 mouthpieces,
Right.
and different. You couldn't do that today. They don't carry the stock for one thing. Right. So further to your point, yeah, there's an industry right there. If it can It just needs some seed funding. We need some education, the private lessons, the community, and I think if you build it, they will come. They will absolutely. Because even today, I've got a gig Sunday playing in a Benny Goodman meets Artie Shaw big band.
Oh,
Fine musicians,
fun.
fine music, and we're going to pack the joint. It's been sold out for the last month now. So if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the arts scare a lot of people because it's a nonverbal form of communication that's extremely powerful. And you can't cut through something that people feel. You can't,
No,
you know what I mean? It's very like permanent and lasting, and it makes people do things like commit their whole life to something, right? And so
yeah, and
it's
and it's a
intimidating.
vicious cycle because there are, let's face it, there are people that want to play, and they're so desperate to play in front of people that restaurants and bars will hire you, and you're making $20 for that
Right.
evening. And it's a terrible cycle because there is value in terms of performance, and it's not $20. That's not
Right.
the value. It needs to be a sustainable amount, and that's a nut to be figured out, right? In terms of
Yeah.
as you put it, the industry.
Yeah, a lot of programs today are trying to include, classes that help people develop leadership skills or some business skills or maybe even more business skills. But, in a university setting, it's really tricky because without real world experience, it doesn't really, connect the dots. I mean, you have to be doing something to have it work. And so sometimes I wonder if part of the problem is that musicians don't know how, I don't want to say stand up for themselves, but they don't have the skill sets to be able to operate in a way that they can turn that down and say that's unacceptable and get a business owner to pay them an appropriate amount of money because they're not used to having to do that.
Yeah, it's tough. And if you say no because of the wage, then somebody else will say yes, and then you're not even getting $20, right? So
Yeah.
it's a tough one. And however, if you produce your product and you're serious, then people will pay. And then if you stand up, hey, I've got a product, it represents value, and if you want this product, then you stand on your own. And you're right. I think it's those business chops that will definitely pave the way, right?
Yeah. Did they teach you any of that in Berklee?
Sadly, no.
Where did
Sadly, no.
you learn it? I have to believe that was a real hard thing to learn when you stepped into the business world because it wasn't something that was baked into your education or something you utilized. So I have to imagine that there were some lessons there around that about having to stand up for yourself and be able to communicate value and things like that. I bet that was a trick for you.
Yeah, yeah, I wish I knew now. I wish I knew then what I know now. Where I learned it was so in the IT, I was in the IT business, so
Right.
I sold IT solutions to large companies, and they trained us. They trained us how to solve problems or put a product together and make sure that the value is represented. It's a simple concept, and I think you're bang on. That should be taught, that the music business, but not the music business, but how do you represent yourself in the music business, right?
Mhm.
Because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, you make money by having gigs and having people attend, or back then, selling CDs. Today it's streaming. Even the streaming companies can do a lot better in remunerating musicians, even today, right?
Mhm.
It's a little sad, unless you're Taylor Swift, and then you're okay, right?
Right. Well, even she had to redo all of her albums because she made a mistake early on.
Isn't that amazing? It's
Right.
amazing, right? Yeah,
She was smart enough to try to do that, but she too lost control of her art technically,
yeah.
you know. So what advice would you give a musician who is struggling with how to support their family and to try to make the steps necessary to stay in music? What would you suggest that they try to do, or what would you from your experience tell them?
So I don't think there's anything wrong in getting a side job to support yourself.
Mhm.
In my case, I was very fortunate. I enjoyed my IT career. I did. But I wouldn't enjoy it if I weren't playing at night either. So I say never say no to gigs. Now I'm kind of I'm going against what I said earlier about, hey, we should stand on our own. Don't play for $20. But I'm saying also never say no. Go to rehearsals, get good at your craft, practice every day. Um, yeah, practice every day. There's other ways to earn a living too. You can always teach, as you put it before. I teach 1 day a week right now, and I've got some really cool students. They're teenagers. I've got some adult students as well, and they're quite motivated. They want to practice. I don't preach to them. The only rule or edict I might say to them is, I don't need you practicing 2, 3 hours, 4 hours a day, but pick up your instrument once a day, even if
Right.
it's for a few. There's a lot of gain, a lot of potential, like a lot of reward from that. You'll see improvement if you just pick it up every day. So that's what I would say. Like, don't say no. Practice, get good instruction, even if you don't see a human. Although I would get a good teacher you can respect, because there's always nuances that they'll share with you that you might not otherwise get from a YouTube video. And there is a lot of good info on YouTube. There's a lot of good data,
Mhm.
but get a teacher, invest in your craft, and have fun with it.
And when you're talking about teaching, there's many ways, like because we teach people how to fix and sell things. There's a ton of teaching that goes involved in that when you actually have the skills, when you're working with a prospect or you're helping them solve a problem with their instrument, and you don't realize how much that skill set can be used in very different ways. And I'm sure you experience that in business as well. Is that the ability to coach or help someone? When you're working with a musician to try to work through a phrase or trying to work through a passage, like those things are very applicable in the business world or in other areas in terms of using those same skills. And so musicians, I think, would benefit tremendously from realizing that, playing and teaching is very, very cool, but there are ways to use that same kind of energy in a business context.
You know, Absolutely. And the other thing about teaching is it teaches you, because you're going to get questions that really cause you to think about, how do you get that sound, or how do you play that passage? How do you practice that? And it makes you think, like, how would you approach it? And the very thought of you as a teacher thinking of it helps you even, pay attention to some of those questions that are being asked. Yeah, it's all good. There's nothing bad about it. You're earning a few bucks. You're helping a kid or an adult, and
And
and you help yourself.
in your IT role, do your coworkers know that you are? I'm sure many of them know you're a musician.
It's funny that you asked that. So I kept it very separate.
I
So I
bet you
worked
did.
my nine.
That's why I was asking because I was wondering how much you told them that.
A few people knew, but it was very. I kept that separate. So I would work my 9 to 5 job. Sometimes I would have a gig on the weekend that brought me to Western Canada. So hop on a plane Friday night, play the gig Saturday and back Sunday, and then back in my office Monday morning. And people had their weekend. I was playing in a venue, and yeah, I kept it separate. Now, 2 years ago, I retired from that job, and so I'm 100%. I'm playing music. I play every day. Like right after this, I got a gig in Barrie, Ontario, about an hour away from my house, and then Sunday I'm playing. I play 4 or 5 times a week now. I'm not really trying, other than I am a player. I don't say no, and I make sure my value is represented.
Yeah.
So I have a rule of three. It's the music has to be good,
Mhm.
the hang has to be really good, and the money has to be decent, and I need at least two of those three, or I don't do the gig, right?
Right.
And that's kind of a rule I have now, right? And it works for me, and I'm busy.
Yeah, that's good. So tell me, I want to go back to the IT thing a little bit more because I'm really curious about keeping it separate and what fears you had or what was the concern or why did you keep it so separate?
Um, I didn't want to get. I wanted folks to know that I was serious about my IT career.
Mhm.
I did well in it, I got to tell you, and I didn't want to not taint it. That's the wrong word.
Do you think they would
I
have thought
didn't want
less
to.
of you if they understood you were really a career musician who just had to make a buck?
Yeah, I didn't want that. I didn't want that to go. I want them to know that I'm passionate about my IT career, and I
Mhm.
didn't. What's the word? I didn't want them to be distracted. That's it. I didn't want them to be distracted by, what I might have done on the side. The few people that did know, I would always say, hey, look, I play music just like you might,
Play
just
golf.
like you play golf or go bowling or whatever you might do. So that's my hobby. And that's probably how much and it's much more than between you and
Well,
me. It's much more than,
right, right. So what were you really afraid of? Like, I guess what's curious to me about that, now that you're out of that, you were afraid that they would judge you in some way, or think you
yeah.
said you wanted them to take you seriously. But why is it that you were so worried about that? Because music, what that tells me, and I hear this a lot, is that, well, music isn't respected. Somehow you're less than because you pursued this career, and yet it takes an incredible amount of intelligence, strength, an ability to actually have a career in music and to elect to do that. And most people choose to do that. They're not saying, I mean, I understand you started out saying I really wasn't very committed to anything, but at the end, when you develop those skills, you realize I could do anything. I'm committed enough to get anything done because it's so hard to play a musical instrument well, right? And
Yeah.
and so you
I might have
realize you
been
really can
wrong.
do
I might have
anything.
been wrong in thinking about that impression, but you're so right. The dedication and the skill that's developed through music, that's a test case that you can do anything. Like and take me for example. Like I'm with my team. I led a team of people architecting complex solutions for large companies and having their IT, support their business. And that I had that skill from being a musician because
Right.
I didn't really I didn't get an MBA in ITA. I took a 2-year college program, and from that, plus my other musician skills, it afforded me this career. That
Yeah.
makes sense?
Yeah, it does. And so if you had told your colleagues, you think that they would have thought you as less than, right? Is that what you're basically that's the gist of it, right? Is there any way you could have persuaded them, or is there anything that you could tell a musician who's in that spot now about, because one of the problems we have in terms of participation is that we need people who are in business to use music as a release. We need them to not drink so much. We need them to not yell at their wives so much. We need them to be more committed to their families. And one of the best ways to do it and to decrease their stress, right? One of the best ways you could possibly do that is to pick up a wind instrument and play for 15 or 20 minutes a day and be filled with new ideas and feel better about yourself and build a relationship with yourself through this thing, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right. I might have been a false, conclusion that I might have drawn in my career. But I'll tell you, they all know now. So on LinkedIn, my profile used to say IT professional. It now, and that's how you found me, freelance woodwind specialist. And
Right.
that's it. And so I got, several thousand IT colleagues, and they're going, what is this? So they know I'm retired from IT. And I tell, oh yeah, I picked up the clarinet and the saxophone last month, so as a joke, obviously. And
Right.
but they come out and see, and they're blown away. They are blown away because they don't know me that way.
For
That's kind
sure.
of yeah, yeah.
For sure. Do you think there's anything in now that you are retired and you're no longer pressured to have to hold that image? Do you think there's anything you could do to support their growth or development in music besides listening? Meaning, how else might you reach a corporate audience? I guess is what I'm wondering, just from your experience.
Yeah, so I have my own quartet. It's a jazz quartet, and what I've done is I go to some of the business leaders that I've dealt with in the past, and I've gotten some gigs through that, right? So my contacts, they may have a sales event or a marketing event, and they would hire us. And I used to be an attendee, and now I'll get a gig as a saxophone player in a quartet, just adding class and ambience to an event that they might be holding. So
I would think with your experience, you could put sales leaders or, mid-level managers or higher level managers and get them seated inside your quartet to feel, because, a lot of times people say that what really gets people involved in music is the vibration and the resonance, right? Because it's so much that it affects you, it affects your person, right? And I wonder if putting them inside, like sitting between you or something, would be a way to teach them more about leadership or more about empathy or more about interpersonal skills skills, because it seems like you have such a beautiful blend, although you kept them separate. Now you could actually put them back together.
And I do, that's true.
You have such a beautiful
So,
blend
so
of knowledge on both sides.
along those lines, I belong to another band, an R&B type band, and we marketed to companies and corporations something called "It's Your Business Blues." And what we do is we teach the business audience what a blues is and how to create a blues. And then at the end of the workshop, they are charged with writing a blues, and then they come up to the band and they sing it.
Ah,
And
that's
that is
great.
it's it's an amazing idea, and so what it does is it creates teams and camaraderie, and they're all focused on something that's not their business, and it's a lot of fun. And and through song, they're talking about their business blues, right? And then it's a really cool idea. So along those lines, that's another idea that bands can take upon themselves and market to
That's
the
a
business.
great one. And then somebody could extend that into group lessons or into like for relaxation, not for necessarily, not to pursue something beyond just a casual hobby or, but I think that society would benefit so much from it if we could find new ways to bridge those gaps and try to help people integrate more. And I do hear a lot of protecting of that when people enter the business world because they're afraid of the consequence of somebody labeling them in the arts or in music. And I feel like that's also something we have to talk more about to try to get over that barrier because it's a prejudice and a bias that we're allowing to live because we're not doing anything about it.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and the other benefit of that, if it's your business blues, is they will pay. They'll pay you your rightful value for that because you're doing team building, and that in the business world, team building is a big thing.
Yeah, I would think you could get a lot of gigs like that if you felt like pursuing that because of your background. Your background is so rich. I can't even imagine going from being a musician to running large projects inside of very political environments. I can't even imagine like that. That's just a whole. I can't believe you weren't terrified for like quite a while there. It's like wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't like I was thrown into the soup. It was an evolution. You know, big companies, they will train and they put you in situations, but they're careful, and you have to take care. But it's no different than even today. I'll get a call for a gig, and you show up, and you don't really know the folks, and you got all new music, and you gotta fit in
Right,
somehow. You gotta fit in on a personal level. You
right,
gotta fit in musically,
right.
and be professional. All of the it's really very much the same, really, when you think about it.
So not every musician has high emotional intelligence, but do you think that, I think you do, you feel like you're very emotionally connected. Do you think that that has a lot to do with your success as well? Because you can read the room and read people and know what to do?
Yeah, reading people, reading the room are critical, and anybody can do it. I believe that. You just have to, we're given two ears, one mouth to listen. Feel the vibe in the room. You won't be wrong, and try things out. Go out on a limb. Go out on a limb. It's not, I tell my children, they're not children anymore, but I used to tell them mistakes are good. The more mistakes you make, the more you learn. So I encourage mistakes, right?
Mhm.
What I don't encourage is making mistakes and not learning from them, right?
Right.
So learn, and that there's nothing wrong with that,
My
right?
dad, my dad said the same thing to me. My dad said, make all the mistakes in the world, just don't make them twice.
Yeah, don't try
Make
not to
all
do them
different new
twice. Yeah,
ones.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Don't do
always
the same one over and over.
yeah, right, for sure, for sure, for sure. Well, your background is really amazing. I really appreciate your time. But before we go, if there was something that you were going to tell the listener that would encourage them to pick up a wind instrument and give it a whirl, give it a try, what would you say to them?
Yeah, give pick up an instrument, give it a whirl, and I'll set an expectation. So when you pick up a clarinet or a saxophone or a flute, it's not like walking up to a piano and hitting a note. The first challenge is we have to get a sound. So
Right,
know that it takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of time to get that sound. But once you get the sound, you're well on your way. As you know, Lisa, right? And once you have a sound, then you're well on your way. It's with a piano or a guitar, there's an advantage of those instruments where you can just pluck and note, and there it is. It sounds. But then after that, you have to string them together
And I think it's
and
about learning to love how you sound and finding your voice, finding a place where you enjoy what's coming out of that instrument.
yeah. And the other piece of advice I'd offer is listen to music. Listen to music. And if you like a song or you like a tune, listen to it again and really identify all the different instruments, all the inflections that are being made, and really analyze those. Like, why does it sound so pleasant? Because it's made up of all these building blocks to make that emotion. And somebody's thought about it all of it. Somebody, a producer, the musician, and it's all come together. So I would encourage heavy duty listening. Everything from classical 300-year-old music to today's pop music, jazz, classical, all of the above.
Yeah, and if the instrument came from your aunt, your uncle, under the bed, pawn shop, please have it looked at, because if it doesn't work, you won't like it.
Oh yeah. Especially a clarinet, right, or any wind instrument. Those pads, they have to cover it, or it won't work. It's not very pleasant. Good
Right,
advice, Lisa.
exactly. Paul, what a treat. Thank you so, so much for doing this with me.